So I was at the part where I had just gotten the news that Troy was going to plead guilty. And I couldn't believe it. I was like so relieved and like, what the fuck, all at the same time. And like, I didn't know what to do with myself and all this information. So the phone call was pretty short. It was like 12 minutes. Um, and I barely remember it, but anyways, so I knew that I had to write in a victim impact statement, and I had just written my books, and I'm a writer, and throughout all this, I did start a publishing company. Side note, if anybody wants anything published, especially survivors, like, let's talk. Anyways, I did all this, and so I was like, fuck, I gotta write this. Like, I've waited 6 years for this. I've never thought of like what I would say to Troy if I had the opportunity to. And now it was here, and like, life was still happening. Like, I still like my regular life going on, and like, it was just a really weird time, but I knew what I had to do. And so I wrote my victim impact statement, and I dumped my heart into it. Like, I poured my heart into it. And like, I didn't just write it for me, I wrote it for all of the other survivors that he had harmed after me when nobody believed me, and they should have. And like, I couldn't have saved anybody. I didn't save anybody. I couldn't have. And like, what I could do is I could write on behalf of everybody, because that was a big thing too, is like, I was the first to come forward. And with that being said, like, that really is a weight, and it's also a blessing, because I don't want anybody to be before me. But then again, I also know that there probably was. And so I'm like trying to, whatever, I'm going to stay on topic. So anyways, I wrote my victim impact statement, and sent it off to Crown, who redacted it and sent it to Troy's lawyer, which I understand is part of the process for them to send it to the defense lawyer, for them to read my victim impact statement before I read it to him in court, because that's the law. In case anybody didn't know, because I didn't know. I knew that they were going to send it to him, but I didn't expect it to be redacted and sent without me knowing. So when I finally figured this out, tracked down Crown, and like got the information that it had been sent, which was like hours later with no contact, and I don't know, I was just I wasn't happy with that, and I re-edited it, because there was things that I wasn't allowed to talk about. I wasn't allowed to talk about his family, how I wanted peace for his family, and how they were important, and about how he went and had kids after he did this with me. He has a bunch of babies that I really care about, and I want to bring attention to that, and they didn't let me. And I also wanted to talk about the fact that there were other survivors, and they took all of that out of my victim impact statement, and they sent it off along with like a ton of swearing, which I get, understand I'm not allowed to say in court. But I didn't know that, because I wasn't given guidelines to write my victim impact statement, and nothing that I understood was like, I didn't, like, I'm a writer, I wouldn't have put it in there if but I was speaking to him when I wrote it. So anyways, I wrote my victim impact statement and prayed that they would let me say it on the Monday morning. Oh gosh, I'm shaking again. So I sent it off on the Sunday, because I had the whole Saturday to write it, and that was it. Anyways, because this was all in such a short period of time. And April 22nd, 2024 came, and that was court day. And so I went into court, and I had a couple family members with me and a friend, and I didn't know basically like what to expect. I knew that I was going to be able to read my statement, and I knew that he was going to plead guilty. But like, I learned things that day, and what I learned in court was that like, he remembered my name, he acknowledged that he did it. Like, it was so fucked up. He acknowledged that, like, he acknowledged what he had done. And that was really hard because, like, I learned evidence pieces that day. Like, I didn't know where he, like, went hole until that day. Because I had been raped in both of my bum and my vagina. And, like, it was really fucked up. So I ended up reading him my victim impact statement. They called me up to the stand, or to the podium thing, and last minute it turns out that he had to appear by video. And I was like, so not, I didn't want that at all. I was like, I'm gonna read this to your face. And I'm really glad that he appeared by video, though, because I wouldn't have been able to, like, it wouldn't have played out the way that it did. And it played out the way that it did because, like, it was the way that it was supposed to go. Because I have, like, man, I got the universe behind my back. I've, like, learned to trust the process on a level that, like, is kind of unmatched to anything earthly that I've seen. Like, let me know if you can relate, because spirituality and, like, oh my gosh, I couldn't have gotten through this by myself. It's just like a regular human, I'll tell you that. But anyways, I walked up to the podium and his lawyer is there, and I asked his lawyer to move it closer to the TV so that I could see him and he could see me. And I'm gonna have to stop shaking and continue. And as I read him my statement, it was like the most, like, empowering fucking feeling I've ever felt in my life. It was the most, like, badass. Like, I wanted to tell him to, like, stand up and look at me. Like, it was so empowering, because the things with the Kamloops courts they made a mistake, and they underestimated, like, the power of healing. Okay, like, there's a lot of healing that can go on in 6 years, because now we're 6 years later. And I read that statement not only for myself and for my family and for those that have, like, walked with me and kept me alive and helped me nurture myself to the point of being able to nurture myself on my own. And because that's something that he took away from me. And so to be able to tell him how he impacted me was like a game changer. Writing it was like one of the most, it was so healing. It hurt a lot. It really, like, was uncomfortable, and it was foreign, and, like, I really didn't like the idea of it, but I did it anyways because it was the right thing to do. And I believe that it's, like, the right thing and the easy thing quite often aren't the same thing. And so that steers a lot of my decisions. Anyways, I read it on behalf of, like, everybody that he has harmed. I spoke on behalf of all survivors that I carry in my heart with, and, like, you know, some people aren't here anymore. Addiction's a really big problem, and, like, trauma's a really big problem, and it really sucks. So I'm gonna have to make a part 3 to carry on. My story is really quite something else, but I really think that it's important to get out there, because I know that there's people that can relate to the things that I have gone through, and maybe not in the same, like, exact experience, but within your own experience. Like, I got to speak up about this stuff because I can't be alone. And, like, especially with all the corruption and stuff, like, it's just, I know I'm not alone. So I'm gonna go do part 3. Thanks for watching, everyone.